Is it safe?
Is it safe? Welcome to the Fandom Outpost, your podcast for all things pop culture.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Fandom Outpost. I am 1/3 your host. I am Mark.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Bob. Hi everybody. Welcome to the episode.
Yes, and before we start here today, we're going to do something that we've never done before. We are going to say happy birthday to our co-host, Bob. It is his birthday today, so happy birthday, Bob.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate it. It just happened to fall on that day.
Didn't it? Stuff. That's awesome.
And we're gonna make you work today. So.
Oh yeah, this is his episode, guys. He's working for this. So.
Yeah, it's true. This idea came back a while ago, didn't it?
We did talk about this a while ago.
What are we talking about today, Bob?
Conspiracy movies and what that entails, and some of our favorites, and we'll kind of deep dive a little bit into each one of our particular favorite for each of us, and kind of just bounce around. There are quite a few that are out there, and there's a handful that are excellent, and we'll kind of pick and choose which ones we kind of want to talk about out of that group. But I know we each kind of picked one that we liked the most to kind of research a little backstory of and fill in some, story about. And that's about it. We'll just talk about conspiracy movies and where they fit in to history and film. And I don't know about what it is today. Today's a little different than it was 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, not so much a movie anymore.
What do you guys think about that? How they fit in? So it's a different climate. I mean, most of these movies that I looked at were out of the kind of the Nixon, Vietnam, all that debacle of what was going on, and a lot of political stuff and, civil unrest about it all. And a lot of cynicism coming out of that, too.
I'm literally sitting here trying to think of like the last 10 years, if there's been something like that. Like, is this a dying genre, or does it get kind of shoehorned into maybe a movie if they want to spice up the
I think Mission Impossibles do a little bit of that, where they kind of have that
right
secret-y government agency kind of thing going on, and internationally, and
right. Oh, well, so we should pause for a second, folks, because I actually asked this for the definition. I think I asked Jim, didn't I? Or Jim asked this. He says, what defines a conspiracy movie? And Bob, You kind of summed it up. Why don't you tell everybody what you summed up? Because I thought it was...
Oh, gosh, I can remember that conversation. I'm
sorry to put you on the spot.
Basically, it's more than one person that's trying to hide something that's going on from other people or a person,
right,
or society, I guess.
Right.
That's what I mean. It kind of you can get into the micro definition of it, or you can expand it to a shadow government or whatever. You can take it pretty wide.
Jason Bourne, that'd be a good one too. What do they call those? The Bourne something? Yeah.
Bourne trilogy.
I don't think he's made one in a while, but yeah.
Jim, you were mentioning that it kind of falls into that thriller vein.
Yeah, they all.
Films, right?
It seemed like when I was researching this or looking for some films to watch when we were talking about this, it all does seem to fall into a bit of a thriller type of mindset, and it can be a military thriller, or it could be a thriller that's a science fiction thriller. We just had off pre-game. We threw out a couple things. It's like, yeah, that's one, and I'll throw a couple films out that are conspiracy in the sci-fi genre. Soylent Green.
You tell everybody. Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell them Soylent Green is people! We gotta stop them somehow!
Is a big conspiracy, and I'm not going to go too much into that. If you haven't seen it, which it may be new to newer people, if you haven't seen it, watch it.
It's an
excellent one. I'll tell you guys a quick story about Mr. Sweeney, one of our managers at the movie theater that we worked at. He had told me a story that when he was working at the La Parisienne, when they were showing Soylent Green, they would, the ushers or whatever would have like a tray that had Green Ritz crackers on it for people when they came out of the theater.
That's back when you could do
that. Kind of stuff. Soylent Green, Logan's Run is another conspiracy film. to a
Is
degree.
it really though? Is that what to
Yeah.
a degree? I
Yeah.
guess.
What's the main
The conspiracy of that
hidden?
is
Yeah.
that life cannot exist outside the Dome City,
Oh,
and that's
Yeah.
why we have to
But
control
does
our.
it? Dun dun dun.
And that's why we have to control our population within the Dome
Right.
City.
Right. And it always takes
So,
one person to break free of that mold
Right.
and stuff. So
well, that kind of was like the Matrix. We talked about the Matrix too, right?
Yeah, the Matrix is one that Bob brought up as well.
yeah, that's now 24 years old. You believe that? How
No,
crazy is
I
that?
Yeah.
I'm
It
feeling
is.
that,
Quick-
yeah.
Like that movie's just older than my oldest kid.
What I always think of, real quick, what I always think about the Matrix is that it came out right around the time of the Phantom Menace, and
Yes.
after seeing the Phantom Menace, and then I saw the Matrix, I'm like, oh my god, the Matrix is so much better than the Phantom Menace. I just remember thinking, oh my god, this thing is awesome. In that summer, funny, Jim, you mentioned sci-fi, but the one I think you want to talk about the most is not a sci-fi per se, right?
The conspiracy is that we're not going to talk about it. Oh no!
Right.
I watched.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we kept it from our.
That's awesome.
I watched Blowout, which was very good. I hadn't seen it in a while. It's a De Palma film, and it stars John Travolta and Nancy Allen, and a
I
very,
love that one.
very young John Lithgow. Also, young Dennis Franz is in that. The premise of that is John Travolta's a sound engineer for a low-budget film company. He goes out one night to record some sounds, and he accidentally records the sound of an auto accident that he witnesses, and then
Right.
this car goes off a bridge and into the water, and he swims in and he saves Nancy Allen's character who's in there, but unable to save the driver, who was turned out to be the governor.
Government conspiracy.
And the governor is polling right now like higher than the president, so he's like a future
Presidential candidate. Right.
right. So
It's on the fast track.
he's on the fast track. So at the hospital, the hush hush begins. It's like, well, Nancy Allen isn't his wife, and and you want his wife to know that he was with someone else.
This never happened. And
This never happened. We never saw you. She never happened, and he ends up listening back to the sounds that he recorded, and he can hear a gunshot that happens before the tire blows out on the car, and then thus ensues the investigation and trying to get Nancy Allen's character involved, and then there's someone working.
Are we going to talk spoilers today? I guess we should, right? Can we? Or should we not?
These are all old movies.
Yeah, we could talk spoilers.
Nancy Allen's character is now the target of being, and the tapes are now the target of being disposed of or killed or whatnot, and then that's where John Lithgow's character comes in, and that's as far as actually I need to go with that, and then that kind of explains, and you find some stuff out about her character, whether was she there on purpose, was she there not on purpose, is she complicit? It's a De Palma film, so it's really nicely filmed, and this is early Travolta. This has got to be after Grease and Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
Was it after Grease? I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
I
think it's
around
after.
that.
So he's still, it's him trying to do a dramatic thing, and he does a really good job at it. So.
He does good. He's really good in it, I think.
And there's some really nice
spoiler
analog.
alert, folks. John Travolta's a good actor.
Yeah, he was good.
There's some very nice analog in the way that sound is put together, and if you're a technophile on that kind of stuff, you're probably super interested in that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's in the weeds with that stuff. It's good.
There's a similar kind of film with Gene Hackman that was done by Coppola.
That's
Coppola.
a good one.
Yeah, called The Conversation, which is a sound guy of a different variety.
Right.
Yeah.
It's got a young Harrison Ford in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, in a really it's really weird to see.
Yeah.
It's awkward in there.
Well, the whole scene about The Conversation is when he's doing the mix and match.
Yeah, like 4 minutes of him doing the mixing and trying to isolate
It's the
conversation.
It's such a cool scene. Yeah, that you don't get. I mean, I can't think of something in modern times that has emulated that. That's just really cool that you're invested in that. You want to hear what he wants to hear. Like you're really pulled into being like,
Yeah.
I want to hear that, you know what I mean? So, but just sitting there listening to you talk about that, that's one that popped into my head.
Is it plausible with that technology to pull that out? Is it like Blade Runner?
I don't
Is
think
it like
so, but
Blade Runner where I go enhance, or if it's like or it's like CSI when I go, let's pull up the ATM footage and then get the reflection off the car mirror in the background, so I can see what was on the reflection of the bumper 3 blocks down to find the killer, to find their identity.
here's a conspiracy for you folks. For 40 years, Ridley Scott has said that Harrison Ford's Rick Deckard he was actually a replicant. Harrison Ford has always argued that he has not been a replicant. Who wins that argument? Does the director get the win on that?
I think Ridley Scott thought that was a cool idea when someone else mentioned it. And I think that's bullshit.
I had a couple thoughts on your blowout I wanted to throw out there. That how similar it matches up with Hitchcock's Vertigo. In the fact that it's an obsessed protagonist that's obsessed with
very much so. Yeah.
Kind of righting a wrong that he had a partner killed or accidentally killed from his doing.
Yes, I forgot. That's a good thread for that. That's a good thread. Yes.
Yeah, and then he gets obsessed with this new person, and the new person ends up
in the same fate.
A terrible situation.
Yeah, a terrible situation. Yeah, that's a very good pull on that, Bob. Yeah, I did forget about the.
Yeah, I found that one, and it also comes from a little bit of the idea from a foreign film called Blow Up. It's an Antonioni film that had to do with a photographer that was obsessed, and it was of reality versus non-reality images that he was seeing in his mind. It's a little bit more abstract, but it kind of that's a good thread to go down if you ever wanted to explore that whole idea from Blowout, which is I love that one. That would have been one I picked as my B one.
Funny, it's just one that doesn't get talked about a lot, and it's well crafted and very Hitchcockian, like you're saying.
Any others, Jim?
I ended up watching The Manchurian Candidate for my choice of film.
The original?
Yeah, the original. I hadn't seen it, but I've known it from pop culture references for decades. And it's a 1962 film by John Frankenheimer based on a novel by Richard Condon. So John Frankenheimer film starring Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, Angela Lansbury, James Gregory.
Angela Lansbury.
Wow. Oh, as you've never seen her.
Oh, she was good in it.
As in a serious role, yes. I know, right?
Yeah, she's evil.
Yeah, I know.
Janet Leigh, James Gregory, and Henry Silva. So
Henry Silva, oh my God, what a character actor that guy
he's
is.
Great. And one of our favorite actors is in it. That in the very beginning, he has a couple lines. So if you've never seen Mr. Barlow without makeup,
Reggie Nalder.
Reggie Nalder is in it.
Yeah.
He's in the gallery scene of, but it involves a U.S. platoon that was kidnapped by a Soviet-Chinese joint mission, and these guys were brainwashed and programmed. And
right.
To do what?
To do what is the question, Bob? To do what? So that's the question. That's the conspiracy.
God. When activated.
Activated. So it was very interesting. It was, shot in black and white. Very, I can see kind of where cinema's going, and the way it's done. It's not doesn't look like a studio movie per se, but there's a, shock ending to it all. But I can see why it was thought of, why it gets the acclaim that it has. And it was released at the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis. That probably plays in a lot with its resonance with film audiences probably at that time.
So what I'm going to talk about, and so I got my cap pulled forward and slightly over my brow and my big old shield back here. So like everybody else in 2008, I was a huge fan of the Marvel Universe, the MCU and stuff. Hadn't really kicked off yet, but then it started to get kicked off. And then the second Captain America movie gets announced called Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, me being the comics guy that I am, I knew instantly what that was. I knew instantly what was coming because just seeing, first of all, spoilers hard coming. Seeing Bucky Barnes fall to his death, anybody that reads anything know he becomes the Winter Soldier. Which bad marketing Marvel in the home video releases, they literally put like the Winter Soldier on the covers and stuff with Bucky's face. Like bad marketing. But they figured if you didn't watch it in the theater, oh well. So nod to Jimmy's Manchurian Candidate, because that's the basis of basically the Winter Soldiers. That's the premise. Bucky is thought out whenever they need him to do stuff. He's gets them trigger words by somebody reading stuff in a book. There's a team of them put together somewhere in Siberia, and they're all assets, Winter Soldiers, so to speak. And whenever they need him, he's thought out and put together. The unfortunate part is that there's a senator, and I'm getting to the conspiracy about this, not the conspiracy, but the Easter egg connection. There's a senator running, I don't know what he runs. He runs some program within wherever Nick Fury works. But that character is played by Robert Redford, who is in one of my favorite conspiracy movies of all time, 3 Days of the Condor. So
I saw that one. That's a good one.
Oh, I love 3 Days of the Condor. I just love it because it's not, first of all, it's ambiguous. It's 3 Days of the Condor is one of those, do they live, do they not live? We're showing you just the beginnings and what could possibly be, and then we leave it up to the audience to decide. And so the fact that he was in this movie, I was like, oh my God. And spoilers alert, conspiracy, he's the top of the conspiracy chain. So he just uses the Winter Soldier as his means to an end, which always seems in the movies involve death. Like everybody got to die, right?
Right. Can't you just make somebody move away?
Yeah, like, do all that stuff. But the history between Bucky and Captain America, that's a bromance there that I can't compete with. So they got the right guys to play it. And the fact that the Russo brothers, Anthony Russo and Joe Russo, were like, we want to make an old-fashioned spy picture, even though we're going to call it one of our MCU movies. Yeah. And there's very minimal use of CGI. It's mostly practical effects. It's 6 weeks of, training and fighting and, stuff like that. So
was that unusual? That's unusual for a Marvel.
Yeah, that's unusual for a Marvel film,
It's kind of an outlier, would you say?
Well, not anymore, technically, because, yes, at the time, that became like one of the best that everyone in the Marvel Universe was like, holy crap, these guys took it to another level. Which,
right,
fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, those two guys were tapped to do the finales, like going out, because everybody was like, oh, wow, these guys really know what they're doing. So no singular director for like Endgame or, things like that. They're like, let's just let these guys do it, and then they come back to do, Civil War and all that. And you're like, holy crap. So these guys are like the, when we always talk about our Star Wars stuff.
Oh, they're like the Filoni and Favreau of Marvel.
Yeah, they are. Right? Those, that they really know what they want and what they're doing. And then you can clearly see that Disney or Marvel or whoever heads up that stuff, gives them the freedom to do whatever they want and stuff. So, but that's my favorite conspiracy movie. Like I got a lot because to this day, I watch it all the time, even though if you read comics like I did, who the Winter Soldier is, who's going to show up. But the whole thing about the movie's different than the comics because he's literally utilized by a shadow government, Bob's words, to be a means to an end,
right,
to eliminate, if you will, certain undesirable individuals. That's the only thing I won't spoil about the movie. There's a big the Winter Soldier eliminates somebody that you will find out in later films, and it's a big source of contention. It's fun. I'm not even going to say go out and watch it. I'm assuming everybody has because it's just one of those movies. But that's my really go-to conspiracy movie. That's the one I love. The only other one I would mention is I'm a huge fan of Clint Eastwood and his Dirty Harry films. And his second one, Magnum Force, has got a conspiracy riddled plot.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I just watched it the other day, by the way, before we decided to really get into this. But
does that hold up all right?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it's so grounded in reality that you can't. If you take the Suits, maybe some of the cars that you see,
Right.
if you could get past all that, but you could translate any one of those movies. Unfortunately, don't listen to me, Hollywood. You could remake today. Please don't do it. But like they still hold up. Yeah, those first three of his really really hold up, and they're all based on. If you do the digging, they're based on real world events. So like his Dirty Harry was Zodiac killer from the
Zodiac,
70s and stuff, and
it's still unsolved. Zodiac,
yeah, that's what they say. And then the cops, it's just Magnum forces. There's cops killing criminals.
Oh yeah,
So
right.
that's what that one is, and it's a conspiracy within the department, and it's just a great cast. The whole thing's a great cast and stuff. But
Yeah.
and then the only thing else I want to say before we get to Bob's is that there's an HBO movie that was made called Conspiracy. It's I can't even speak on it. If you don't know what it is, go out and look it up and watch it. It's one
You're
of the
recommending it?
it's one of the most harrowing movies you're ever going to watch. It is
Wow.
that. I'll just tell you about this. It's about the only existing, because a high-ranking Soviet official decided not to burn his papers from this meeting, is why we know what we know. And it's literally about the German high command coming up with the final solution. So you go watch it. It's a who's who of actors. I watch it at least once a year. My wife is like, "Oh my God, you're watching that thing again?" But it's one of the first HBO movies. HBO used to do their own films, by the way. To me, it's right up there. I mean, it's tops. So I got to recommend it. Somebody's got to go out and watch it, just so I'm not the only guy out here shouting about it. But it's really terrible to watch because
Well,
you can
subject
watch
matter,
it and be
right.
like, yeah, the performances, you're like, oh my God.
Right.
Like you're like that, you know what I mean? Because it's like, wow, this really happened. So
Yeah.
not to end on a down note, but Winter Soldier, man, go ahead.
Yeah. Would you say HBO True Detective, is that conspiracy? I know the newest season 4, has a conspiracy.
Yeah,
behind
they
it
all are. They all are.
But the first one, I'm trying to think, because I just watched that season 1 and I went through it.
Yeah, they
and,
all are.
It's great. And season 1 is like, that may be the best season of TV I've seen in a long time.
Whoa!
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Wow.
Yeah,
So,
I love that season 1 of True Detective. That is amazing.
I don't know what the relationship between, and I can't get his name right, but his name is Nick. It starts with a P. He's the guy
Right.
that he's pretty much the showrunner spearheading that. And HBO, I think, just was like, whatever, and just dropped him. I was like, okay, so
Yeah.
he really was the spearhead to make that show a success. And why he didn't come on board and do more of them, I don't, whatever. So,
Yeah. No, it was excellent. And I'm just trying to think of the conspiracy. I guess it was with the governor and some family stuff going on in New Orleans. Yeah. So yeah, I love that conspiracy stuff.
Let me ask you a quick question about that, because that's something that I'd love to talk about at length at some point. But like, did you like the nonlinear aspect of like past and modern times?
I did.
And stuff?
The interview format.
Yeah,
It's interview current day, and you're going back. I loved it.
Yeah, it's really good
because they gave you a little bit of a breadcrumb each time of the character development. You're like,
okay,
and you especially with Woody Harrelson's character, you learn more about. I kind of had an idea of what kind of guy he was, and then it came to fruition. And you're like, oh shit, this guy is.
Well, I like when your two protagonists, they're not exactly good guys. They're
flips of the coin, right?
Yeah, they're kind of like I love a good drama that's like, I'll do anything I can. Well, okay. What is one of our favorite movies, To Live and Die in L.A., where he's like, I'll do anything I can to nail Masters. You know what I mean? I love characters like that. So that pretty much is telling you right now, if I got to break the law, I'll break the law to get this son of a bitch. I'm really intrigued by that, and that leads into my Dirty Harrys and all that. Those two characters, the fact that it came back to modern times and they were like, yeah, we're going to go solve this.
Yeah,
that was phenomenal, man. You don't get better television than that.
Yeah, the story took like 7, 8, 10 years to kind of develop the whole story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite amazing.
Recommended, Jim. Go watch them.
I haven't seen them.
I was high on 4 to begin with, and then it just left too many. It didn't tie up the questions I had, and I was very disappointed by the end of it. It was kind of a bummer, because it really started off, kind of had a little bit of the Thing feel to it out in the Arctic with some scientists that get frozen out and it just became kind of a jumbled storytelling. I just could not get the final ties together. It just didn't happen. It was kind of disappointing. I'm not recommending that one. I'm sorry. I just was not. I did not feel satisfied at the end. I guess that's what it comes down to. I wanted to kind of talk about one in particular. I know we touched on a few. We left off Close Encounters, which I'm sure is one of our favorite movies on our list. But that's definitely a conspiracy type movie with the government trying to hide aliens landing in Wyoming.
It's weird that I don't think of it as a conspiracy movie till like that shows up, and I'm like, oh yeah, it is a conspiracy movie, right?
Yeah,
it's like
the government is.
I'm all lost in all the aliens and the flying saucers until they're.
And I don't get that. I really don't understand that. Towards the end, it's almost like Spielberg was like, "What do we do for our ending?" You know what I mean? Like how do we? Because I'd heard conspiracies about like he's like, how do I get them to the mountain? How do I get them to this?
I thought I had.
You know what I mean?
I thought I had read that he had. Yeah, it was like he had designed it backwards. He had the ending.
Oh,
and then he had to kind of figure.
Cool.
And then I'm kind of like, all right, that
figure out how to get him there. Yeah,
sense.
Okay.
Right?
Well, the one I wanted to touch on most was a film that I first saw. It must have been. It says it came out in '78. On the film, it says it was the date on it 77, but I think the U.S. release was 78. So that puts me at about 11 years old. And I remember my dad taking me out of school to go see this on a matinee. I don't know why he did it.
Oh, Dad was like, we're going to see this, son.
Yeah, because it had a lot for adults. It had the characters in it were actors that adults probably could recognize, fairly well. And it had everything I liked at that time. It had a space theme,
right,
which I loved. Anything to do with Apollo and that whole program. It had, a mystery. It had a mystery to it. And that movie is called Capricorn 1. Now, I'm going to disclaim it by saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a moon truther.
Oh, my God.
I'm none of that.
There we go, folks.
I believe in all the moon landings. I'm not. I want to put that out there right now as a disclaimer.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Everything is, to me, everything's true.
Wait, aren't we going back to the moon right now?
Yeah, there's something. They just landed.
Actually,
about a week ago.
They're working on it.
They just landed something.
Oh, see, Jim says they landed.
There was a lander.
Unmanned lander, yeah. Unmanned.
Oh, okay. Do we get footage yet? Like, I don't know. I'm not following that stuff.
I know. It's very under the radar, which is strange. They don't want you to know.
Because they don't want you to know.
They don't want you to know, man. We're going to find out what's up there.
The Capricorn 1 comes out in June of 78, which is in probably the height of space movie loving time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars, Close Encounters was all around that period. The tagline is, "The mission was a sham, the murders were real." So there you go.
Damn.
It's interesting on this film that NASA cooperated with the production because it kind of takes a bit of a swipe at the whole NASA thing,
right?
Whether they're showing, the legitimacy of it. And the basic premise for folks who haven't seen it is the mission to Mars, which is about to blast off at the beginning of the film. And our astronauts, who are James Brolin, coming off a TV series, I believe it was Marcus Welby, MD, and was known as a TV guy at the time.
Yes.
And this kind of put him on the big screen before Amityville Horror and all that.
TV's Big Adventure. Right.
Sam Waterston plays kind of the comic relief with a bunch of dad jokes throughout the movies, kind of the jokester. And O.J. Simpson, which is kind of you got to brush that one under the rug a little bit.
Ah, man, he's out there. Let him have it. So,
I know. It's a rough one to see him with all the baggage, but OJ is in this movie. He plays the third astronaut.
Right.
Doesn't have a very big part. He has one big scene coming in toward the end. So the astronauts are about to blast off. They get in their ship, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, while everyone's watching out front, and our vice president, who was played by James Karen, which is one of my favorite guys from Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living Dead.
It's Frank.
Are we going crazy? No, it's that crap on the tanks. That goddamn chemicals. It's all over your tongue, boy, if you like this job. Like this job? Think.
Not a bad question, Bert.
He's the vice president. He's out in the crowd, and there's a bunch of actors you'll know if you see them.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, they whisk the astronauts away, take them into a van, take them to a helicopter, take them to an off-site facility, and then they meet the director, who's Hal Holbrook, which is absolutely a gem of an actor, right? Especially in The Fog.
This is your goal, Blake. My grandfather stole it from you. I'm the one who must answer for it. I'm the sixth conspirator. I'm Father Malone. Take me.
Gives us some gravitas.
Hal Holbrook. Yeah, Hal Holbrook is the. Go watch it, folks. Hal Holbrook is the lead conspirator of Magnum Force. He's the guy.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
He's the guy behind the cops.
He plays a good sneaky guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, he's got that. He could hold his own against Clint Eastwood. I'll tell you that much.
He's good.
So, yeah.
So Hal Holbrook's in. I always get him also mixed up with the mayor and Jaws. I always Murray
Hamilton.
I can't remember.
Murray Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of get those two mixed up a bit because they're kind of the same kind of a charming, underhanded guy. But they play those roles great. So anyway, Hal Holbrook tells them that a life support system made by a company called Con Amalgamate, which is also the company used in the film Outland, which is I find interesting. They use the same company name, this fictitious company name, which is kind of fun.
That's a Wayland-Utani, yeah.
So this life support system wouldn't sustain them on the way back. They would die.
Is it safe? Is it safe?
And lo and behold, we come into our third act character, much like he did in Horror Express. We get Telly Savalas.
Oh, that's right. We get Telly Savalas
coming in as the crop duster.
In our Randy Quaid moment.
I had to go back and watch Horror Express because I know you guys have mentioned that one. And he comes out of nowhere. He comes out of nowhere in that one. And
that's funny.
Almost steals the movie from everyone.
That's funny.
And he did it again almost with this movie because he comes in as this brash, kind of like Quint with a crop dusting plane from Jaws, and he's this smarmy guy, and he takes Elliot Gould, and Gould pays him to go look for it in the desert. And meanwhile, the two of the astronauts have been captured and presumably killed, and Brolin is hiding in a gas station, and Gould shows up with Savalas in a plane because they see the helicopters that are on the scene, these government-looking, army-looking helicopters. And Brolin breaks out of the gas station, sees the crop dusting plane with Savalas and Gould, jumps on this biplane, and gets chased by these choppers. Which,
wow!
If you guys haven't seen this sequence, it's quite amazingly shot. And the stuntman on articles I've read said it was one of the most dangerous stunts he's ever done because he's basically hanging onto this biplane on the wing, and they're doing like 100-foot dives down this canyon, and he's just hanging on. It's quite amazing. It's I would give it a run for the money with the new Top Gun. Even I mean, it's that good. So definitely worth the watch for that. And eventually, our hero breaks free, and while they're having a memorial service at the end with all the astronaut wives and everything, and Hal Holbrook giving a speech, and the president's there. Elliot Gould shows up in this car, and him and Brolin get out, and he's all full of dust, and kind of starts running slow motion, and everyone's like looking, and then the TV cameras turn, and he's running in slow motion. It's one of those 70s things, and he kind of freezes. So it kind of gives you the fact, like, I guess it's left to your imagination of what the fallout is and what happens. So it's not the greatest movie, but I find it fascinating and entertaining. And
I can remember it being a big deal when it was, I remember advertising it
when
all
was
over the
released,
place. Yeah. Yeah, it was fun.
That was
It
the big thing, was the whole moon fakery thing. That was kind of what it played on everyone's little bit of, could have they done
Yeah,
that?
right.
That kind of thing. That one I love a lot. A great soundtrack also I want to mention by Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah.
Who who did Planet of the Apes, The Omen, Alien,
he's
Rambo,
got
Star Trek, the motion picture. It's got a laundry list of terrific.
Nice.
And this theme in this is very ominous, and it sounds like it's like a character in itself. It just has this ominous theme that comes up, and it's like the government or whoever, the shadow, whatever. It's this dun 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 dun. It's this really ominous theme, and it's pretty fun. So. That one I like.
Let me ask you guys this about conspiracy movies. So, are you more along the lines of the conspiracy movie where the conspiracy gets found out at the end?
That's a good question.
Or something happens where it doesn't. Like, example, that guy running slow motion. What if all of a sudden you froze and you heard a gunshot?
I know.
And you'd be silenced. Like, oh, what the fuck? Like, that's going to taint your viewpoint. You're going to think that guy got shot. They're going to drag him away before anybody knows what happened. That was some crazy person that wanted to look like your husband. You know what I mean? So I always wonder, what do you want to happen in
upbeat or downbeat ending?
Found out? Yeah, upbeat or downbeat endings.
Well, Blow Out did not have a terrific upbeat ending,
right?
That's
the Palma.
That's a good
He
scream.
didn't allow that to happen.
The good scream.
It's a good scream.
Ugh,
things like the
Haunted Forever.
Things like the Parallax View has a downbeat ending. Things like you get the Boys from Brazil. That's another conspiracy.
Marathon Man.
Boys from Brazil is. I actually saw that in the theaters. I don't think my mom knew what she was getting me into when I saw that, but. The conspiracy was really good in that. The bad guy was really good in that. But at the end, you got the little Hitler boy who's like, I don't want to be this.
Right.
So it's a downbeat ending because of some of the things that happen, which I won't spoil. But it's upbeat because when he finds out, he breaks free from his Manchurian candidate training to be the next Hitler kid. And it does that whole whatever, it makes the dogs kill the dude.
Right.
Because they were coming to do something to him.
Mangala.
I think that's great, but it's like, it's not exactly your upbeat ending, but it's maybe that's a gray area. It's in the middle.
It's in the middle
because the bad guys get what's coming to them, but it still exists. The program is still there because they only found 4, I think, throughout the movie. Sorry, folks, going off on a tangent. I actually like the Boys from Brazil. I forgot about that one.
Another good one is The Insider, the Michael Mann movie with Russell Crowe.
Oh, that one's really good.
That one's a really well done.
That's
well
good.
Done.
Yeah,
I know you
likes
like
that one. I don't understand.
It's really well done and well acted. That will keep you interested, right?
And that's the true story one, though. I mean,
about
you got to watch that, folks. They're playing real characters in that movie.
Some real life stakes,
Yeah, so
Marathon Man.
Few Good Men. Few Good Men is a bit of a smaller conspiracy.
Yeah.
With the murder.
Yeah, with the murder. That's a good.
In the service with hiding that.
I got one for you. It's called Basic. BASIC. It's I don't know if it's the third outing between John Travolta and Sam Jackson, but it stars the two of them, and they're on a base, and the basic premise is Travolta's an ex-Ranger who gets called in to interview because apparently Sam Jackson's character is such an asshole that he got killed out in the field doing something with a lot of rookies or recruits. And you have to unravel the story. And I got to recommend it. I'm not even going to spoil it because
put that on the list.
The ending for me was really like...
Put that in the queue.
Oh, yeah, put that in the queue. You just got to be able to get through some of the mid stuff.
So maybe we take a couple minutes and just talk about the one we consider the granddaddy of all conspiracies and how it was put on film.
That is Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly.
That's JFK, right? That is pretty much the Zapruder of all. Zapruder film of all.
Zapruder film of all conspiracy movies. Quote that on a t-shirt. That's awesome, dude. That is so meta. It's not even funny. You just have the words JFK in the front, and on the back it says the Zapruder film of all conspiracy movies.
To a point where a conspiracy movie, let me ask a question on a conspiracy movie based on real life events. how responsible is the filmmaker to truthfully portray versus giving their viewpoint?
That's like the insider that we just spoke of.
Right.
Okay, so Michael Mann was trying to be as true as he could with the events around. Some names changed to protect the innocent, blah, 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 that kind of stuff.
Right.
Not JFK.
No.
That is it. So if there exists in the world one thing that I guess I'd really like to know the answer to, that would be it. Just because it's been in my zeitgeist my entire life, because I'm that old.
Sure.
I was born in 1968. And so, when you could first start seeing things, that was still around, was still a big thing. I traveled, I went to Dealey Plaza on vacation. I went to the book depository. I saw, because up in the book deposit, there's a little mini museum that was there that in the film, that thing that Costner is doing with the Dealey Plaza miniature, that was up in there after the film. Wow. You know what I mean? That was donated to that.
That's cool.
And you still stand there with everybody and you look around, you look at that dude over there that I'm never going to see again. And you're like, what do you think? Like, it's weird. It was surreal. You know what I mean? And you go down there and you stand behind the wooded fence and you're like, I could see it, but as far as, let's say this about JFK. Let me start with this. Best cast ever.
Oh my God. Yeah. Insane cast.
If I answer that question you keep asking, if I give you the name of the big enchilada, then it's Bon Voyage Dino. I mean like permanent. I mean like a bullet in my head, you dig? Does that help you see my problem a little better?
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of light in the bushes, and then shots rang out.
No cloak and dagger stuff, They called it Operation Mongoose.
It's gonna be okay, Dave. You just talk to us on the record and we'll protect you. Now, I guarantee it.
You're so naive.
We found this in your office. We think the conference room is also bugged, maybe the phones.
I'm not cooperating here. Listen, there's a death warrant for me.
Are the same people gonna kill us, Pop?
Nobody's gonna kill us. Think the unthinkable. Question everything. Now, we're through the looking glass here, people. White is black, and black is white. You don't believe me?
I don't know.
All this time, you never believed me.
I just want to raise our children and live a normal life. I want my life back.
Look, this thing's bigger than all of us.
Now, how many courts is it gonna take for you lawyers to figure out what you want? People got to know. People got to know why he was killed.
Do you know what you've done to me? I'm a dead man!
Well, if they can kill the president, they can certainly get me.
You're a mouse fighting a gorilla.
You're close. You're closer than you think.
There's going to be an attempt to kill you somewhere between here and New Orleans.
I say let justice be done or the heavens fall.
You have to go so far down the list. Like, it's like an Avengers movie. It's like, it's like that Endgame. It's like, holy cow. You got 2 seconds of Walter Matthau on the airplane.
Right.
I still use that dog don't, one pristine bullet, that dog don't hunt. I still use that line to this day because it's a great line from Walter Matthau. You know what I mean? Like, everywhere you turn in there, you're like, oh. Hour later into the movie, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think dealing with people like that and coming off that trippy 60s Platoon era, that guy just, I don't know, man. He's full of that stuff.
Oliver Stone, we're talking.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sorry, Oliver Stone. Yeah. He just wanted his voice out there. He started as a writer, by the way. He wrote a lot of good screenplays. If you go back and look at what he really wrote, which is great. Mm-hmm. But I think once he became a director, he's like, I'm going to tell things my way with my point of view. Mm-hmm. And the best quote I ever heard about JFK was that this person who is like a researcher was like, I'm afraid future generations are going to watch that and they're going to think that's absolute truth.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know
that's what's going to happen.
Right. So they were like,
it's happening now
as an entertaining medium. Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean,
I was just like, yeah.
I don't even want to get into stuff nowadays.
I know.
The internet has caused a lot of a lot of issues. Everyone has you have opinions on what really happened, and
you know why?
Yeah,
it's because it gives you that. You watch 400 hours worth of something, and it gives you a 30-second thing that makes you doubt.
Yeah.
That's dude. I hate that because I'm the same way. I consider myself one of those. If I can't see it, smell it, touch it, like I don't believe it, but it gives you that one little thing where you're like, oh, well, yeah, what happened in that time frame or whatever? I hate that. I hate that I have such self-doubt about that. There's an author, if I can recommend it, by the way, folks, called Gerald Posner, Posner. He wrote this book, and it was this thick when it came out, and it was a hardcover. He went back in, and he interviewed everybody at it to prove how Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone killer. The book's phenomenal. It is the counterpoint to that movie. And this is before a lot of these people had passed away. He did the research early enough on and presented it, and it's a great read. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Ultimately, I think you're going to come away with your own feelings about that.
I know it's such. I mean, it's been even. It's even seeped into pop culture with Seinfeld.
It's been parodied with the with the
back and to the left.
With back and to the left.
Yeah, the lone spitter, back whatever it was.
Yeah, it's back and to the left.
The lone spitter,
the loogie, whatever it was.
Oh my God.
Keith Hernandez.
The height of Kevin Costner. Like, that's his apex, dude.
Yeah,
you can't get no more powerful in there.
Right time.
Yeah.
Right
place, right time.
Field of Dreams and
and he's about to hit that home run with
Robin Hood.
I shall never fear my father's sword.
No.
Waterworld?
No, the Dances with Wolves, man.
Dances with Wolves.
Oh my God. He says Robin Hood. Robin Hood's just a fun movie.
It's a fun movie. Yeah.
No conspiracies about that. It's a fun movie.
That's right. Dances with Wolves comes out after that. Yeah.
Dances with Wolves, dude. And you're like, what? So, like I said, I think, I honestly, I'm going to say this because with the exception of, say, Avengers Endgame, which is all a scheduling thing,
right?
You know what I mean? Who had the authority and the clout to get that type of cast into a movie?
Well, one of these things with that cast and the filmmakers in general that are doing it is that's a moment of history they all lived through, right? That they all they don't have answers for. And you would talk to anybody. Right. My dad could tell me where he was when he heard about it.
Oh, my mom did that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. Yeah. Yeah, they talk about that and be like, oh my God, it was such this, and everybody crying and stuff. And I'd be like, what? Like, I never understood that, but a young Gary Oldman, by the way, playing
Lee.
Oh my God, I just said his name.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oswald, yeah, which he does really good in that film. Like, there's guys that you could tell when you watch, like Joe Pesci in there. That guy's top 3 in that movie. Like, he's so phenomenal in that movie. And then so's Gary Oldman. Like, there's just a lot of characters who it's not really their movie,
right?
But they're so good in it. Just the scenes that they have to have are so good.
Tommy Lee Jones,
Oh my God! Yeah, I actually forgot about him. Yeah, John Candy's got a brief cameo.
Oh, yeah, he's got a really good, serious cameo. Like that's what a bit.
Like he's not John Candy.
Right,
he's
flipping out.
Whatever that district attorney was supposed to be. Yeah,
No, Daddy-O.
Come in and walk all over your head, Daddy-O. Yeah, I'm like, that's so great.
The cherry on top is Donald Sutherland as the mystery man
X.
Who. In the one,
everybody says that's
in the one scene.
Yeah,
he
that's
has,
the culmination of that movie, man.
It's
yeah,
the point.
I never realized Kennedy was so dangerous to the establishment. Is that why?
Well, that's a real question, isn't it? Why? The how and the who is just scenery for the public. Oswald, Ruby, Cuba, the mafia. Keeps them guessing like some kind of parlor game, prevents them from asking the most important question, why? Why was Kennedy killed? Who benefited? Who has the power to cover it up?
He kills it. If you know nothing about JFK and you're living under a rock and you want to know something, just Google Donald Sutherland X
Right.
and watch that scene.
And it explains why there's the mystery to this day. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got this notepad that he actually throws up. He's like, like just as the actor acting against him is almost like, this is too big for me. I can't wrap my head around it.
Right.
He's like, you testify? He's like, no, I'll be killed.
Right.
Like to me, it's the best scene in the movie, except for the courtroom scene at the end, which is pretty good.
Where Costner takes a beat to stare at the audience.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy right there, because he stares the audience. It's up to you, and they were like telling that it's our generation that we got to do something about this, and those files and documents are still not unsealed. I think it's 2088 or
right. No, we're still waiting.
Like
yeah, for all of them to be.
Yeah,
redacted.
we're still waiting and stuff. So
we'll never. I don't think we'll ever.
The only thing I don't like about the ending is that Kevin Costner's law-abiding district attorney says, let's just speculate for one moment. That other table, they would have jumped up and said, objection, Your Honor, because you can't speculate
right.
in a court of law. I wish somebody would edit that out of the movie. And he would just say, all right, well, on this time, blah, blah, and he could just start the speech. You cannot start it by saying, let's just speculate for one moment. Because that goes into his whole tirade about, the umbrella and all this, and that guy's killed, and holy shit.
All that punctuated with a great John Williams score.
Wow.
I have that drum thing in my Spotify that I always listen to.
Yeah, there's that really good thing with there's a thing with
in the beginning.
There's that, but there's a really good one. They're laying it all out, and it's like a ticking clock. He's got it tick.
Oh yeah, that TikTok thing.
Yeah, that's really good. That's like goose pimply good. So, and ominous is all hell.
First of all, folks, it's a 5-star movie.
Yeah,
I don't care what you think about conspiracies. It's a 5-star movie. When Costner and the other two guys are going down there, like 1548 Lafayette Street, blah 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 blah. And he's pointing out that the building has the same addresses, and he's like, "Here's the CIA. Here's this." He's like, "We're standing in the heart of the intelligence community in New Orleans at the time." Right. Like, it really makes you go, damn, was that real? Like, is that a made-up thing for the movie, or is that real? Because if that's real, then it's like, wow, that's that 30 seconds of pause that I was talking about, And the fact that I can't imagine
Michael Rooker
sitting through the director's cuts over and over, but, like, if you ever get a chance to watch the director's cut, it's even better. Because it's just all the shit that you had to cut out for the theaters thrown back in at you. You know what I mean? Bob, you got that sitting rotting on your shelf there somewhere.
Yeah, I gotta get to that. That's one I did not, because I didn't focus on that one, but I definitely want to see it. It's on my shelf.
Yeah. Watch that director's cut version, dude. I mean, it's definitely worth it. So I could talk about that movie all day long. I mean, I saw it a couple times in the theater when it came out, because I was just very impressed with how it was told.
Yeah, it left you thinking. Yeah.
And an engaging piece of cinema, for certain.
And what's your favorite conspiracy movies out there? There's a billion
of
them.
them. Drop them in there.
Yeah, we'd love to hear. Yes. Love to hear from our audience. Which
My
ones
wife
they like.
says hers is The Great Muppet Caper.
Oh.
And I says, I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think that's a whodunit. So that might be a different type of thing. And before we sign off, speaking of the Muppets, I dropped this little Easter egg in over here, because I know some behind the scenes stuff. So
there you go.
We'll see what that ends up becoming, folks.
He's got his eye on us.
All right, take us out, Bob.
Yep. Follow us on the Fandom Outpost on social media and everywhere you get your podcasts. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel, and we would really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Bob.
I'm Jim.
Hey, I'm Mark. That was awesome.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and the real killer for JFK was...